So, yeah, these are great.
Keely.
Hello, welcome.
Hello, hi.
I thought
May the
Kim.
fourth be with you.
May the force be with you. This is awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, welcome.
Woo.
This is one of
yeah,
my favorite landscapes. I absolutely love it. We have Julia
yeah.
coming in and yeah,
I j-
this is so nice. Just looking around. There's a lot of curiosity in this space, lots of wonder.
mm,
Ooh.
it's sort of a combination of a cave and also open to the sky, isn't it?
Yeah,
With all kinds of
absolutely.
little floaty dandelion things, and
Mhm.
well, any better than this? I feel refreshed being in this space, don't you? Yeah.
Ah, nice. So as you come
Oh, how
in,
beautiful.
just feel free to explore,
Yeah.
breathe, get curious. Andy, good to see you. Look at this. This is great. Wow. Hi.
Yeah. It's great too. Huh.
Just looking around.
See where we goes here. Oh,
All right. Super fun. Welcome. So, welcome everyone. As you're dropping into the space, feel free to explore, move around, wander. We're going to start kind of speaking about superpowers and designing wonder in about 5 minutes after people get used to being in the space and kind of investigating and exploring. This is so beautiful.
mm,
I love looking around. Oh my gosh. Yeah, welcome. Welcome, Woodland Moose.
oh, Woodland Moose.
Welcome.
Hi.
Yeah, this is great. Dana Anton, welcome. Super.
Chris. Hey, Chris. What?
Yeah.
Hello.
Feel free to jump up on
Hey.
things.
Hi, Tom.
Just explore the space
Oh,
around you because
look,
this
you
this
guys.
is all about having a virtual wonderland. So we have
Yeah.
some wonder space to explore here.
Yeah. Yeah. Good to see you guys. Welcome to the fourth. Herbert. Herbert, good to see you.
How do you get out of this pit?
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Hi.
You have to teleport. Yeah, so you can move your teleport or
Yeah.
move around, look up. All right. So, Tom, would you like to join me here in the? We have a forum set up, sort of like theater in the round. And oh, I can re enter. Yeah. So, we're going to get started in 1 minute here. And I'm just coming into the space one more time. So, if you want to gather around the theater in the round, that would be lovely because we're going to get started in a couple of minutes. Yeah.
Wow, lots of wonderful people here. Dana.
Hi, Andy.
Victoria's here. Victoria, all the way from Nigeria, I believe.
Yes, yes. Okay. All right. So Here I am. Yes. All right. So
He has
Tom,
a superpower to fly.
feel free to float if you want to float.
Okay.
So we're gonna be starting in a minute, and it's just so wonderful to see all these people around, good friends, people from all different connections, and gathering together to talk on May the 4th be with you about superpowers and designing wonder, and really the nature of what it means to be involved in the hero's journey as somebody who uh, really wants to explore the process of going through the hero's journey as we apply it to VR worlds of wonder. So right now, just to be able to reach people in the space, we have some different kind of breakouts that we'll be doing at the end of this event, toward the end. So right now, just to be able to see you, I can fly over you to take pictures. And right now, flight is not enabled in this space universally, but we will be able to do some things in outer space and beyond toward the end of this event. So stick around to have multiple superpowers added in to your arsenal. Yeah. And right now, I'm just starting off taking a picture of the audience. Sometimes we wait till the end, but I feel like having you all gathered here in this wonder space is pretty incredible. So if you feel like throwing up any emojis for how you're
Oh,
feeling today on May the 4th be with you, I'm going to be taking a picture in 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Oh, this is awesome. Um, this space, when I first saw it, I just thought, this is colorful. This is magical. Um, and just to give a background to this event, it looks like a cave down here. And I was really thinking about all of the stories and the epic sagas and the adventures where the hero has to go away to some kind of island or cave or space in order to gather their energy and their superpower. So you even see, especially, Star Wars thinking about going off to the island to practice, and raise encounters on the island, and all of the hero's journeys that involve that type of activity that's very insular and exploratory. So today we have us in this wonderland of a virtual underwater cave so that we can talk about the hero's journey and talk about designing wonder together as a group. Yeah, and Tom, you might have to re-enter the space if you want to see your flight enabled, but regardless, it doesn't matter. We can start on the ground
okay.
or in the air. We can be anywhere we want to be. So, yeah, yeah. The point today: come as you are, get comfortable, and we're going to talk about worlds of wonder and also have um, audience interaction, Q&A, all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, and Tom, how are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm great. I'm wonderful. It's sort of I'm just sort of mesmerized by this space and feeling the I see the breath sort of happening in this space. As we see the brightness and dark flowing, the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful where we see change. Because if there were no change, if there were no light and dark, we wouldn't see it. I mean, it's important. That's why it's wonderful to have our friends here because when we see you, we're able to get outside of ourselves. We're able to connect um, to you, and so it's amazing being in a dynamic environment. I'm reminded. I don't know why this came to my mind. I'm just watching the breathing of the cave here, and of when we are in places where, for example, the Inuits in Alaska, they have, 20, 30, 50 terms for grayness.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
just think about gray and light, or dark. And yet w- it's so important for us to see these differences that
So,
give us
yeah.
contrast in our lives. And we recognize that it's part of being and beholding, I think.
This is so beautiful. Your voice has such resonance, and for me, I just want to check to make sure you're on speakerphone so that people can hear you across the space. So just in case,
I am.
you might want to check your right panel. Beautiful.
I have
Um,
Amplify.
oh, awesome. And what I'm thinking here as you're talking is about this aspect of noticing that's one of the
Mhm.
5 facets of wonder, and maybe a beginning exercise, really interactive, but just a moment not to focus on us, but just to look around the space and notice here some details that you appreciate. Because part of tapping into our superpowers and wonder is to look around and really have intention about where to place your attention. So kind of like you have a visual, sensory, multisensory flashlight, just trying to shine that attention on one element and not get overwhelmed by the fullness of everything, but kind of narrowing attention. Yeah, so just let your senses play a little bit. Um, and the second mindfulness part is if you could look around and see there are these dancing underwater creatures that are bobbing up and down. I just want to play around and see if I can anchor breath of those creatures, sea creatures. So I'm going to do a mindfulness exercise. Feel free to join with me in breath. And I'm going to inhale, I see it moving up, and exhale. Sit down in
Feeling
this
you're
space.
breaking up.
Okay.
So I
So,
often think about
yeah.
back to this aperture into our minds that we're
Mhm.
talking about, noticing. This it's almost like when we think about cameras. Cameras have two important parts of their optics. One is the aperture, and one is the focal length lens. And we can have telephoto lens and bring things up close to us, or we can zoom back and bring back more into our peripheral vision and behold the wonder of being contained or being immersed in an environment. But at the same time, there's the aperture. The aperture, basically, when we open the aperture, gives us uh, much more light to come in. But it may at the same time narrow our depth of focus. Because when we close down our aperture, increase our depth of focus in many cases. That's the way at least optics work. We need to be manipulating our lenses to control this aperture as well as the zoom to see and comprehend everything. Caitlin, you're back with us, and
I
hopefully
love
you're
it.
all whole again.
I hope so. Can you hear me
Yeah.
okay? Is that good?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good. Yeah.
Uh,
We have
I love,
so many. Yeah. We
yeah,
have so
this
many
idea
folks
of,
here today.
yeah, we do. Narrowing and focusing aperture.
Uh-huh.
I think the last thing that maybe you were hearing coming out as a rumble was focusing on these sea creatures bobbing up and down.
Hmm.
I was doing a mindfulness breathing exercise where you could notice the creatures and breathe in as they go up, and then just exhale as they come down. I'm breathing in and then exhaling. Because for me, wonder starts with the intentional attention. Like we have a superpower of placing our attention with intention and mindfulness, kind of narrowing that aperture of our focal point and really allowing our breath to anchor, our body to anchor, because we're physical creatures operating in many different multiverses. Yeah, so I have some questions coming in, like, is this a meditation class? In ways, this is an interactive session to talk about designing wonder and talk about Tom and I, we combined forces recently about the topic of wonder and investigations into the research of wonder. And there are overlaps with meditative processes. And if you look at May the 4th Be With You and a lot of heroes' journeys, just going into across the threshold into those caves, those spaces of deep contemplation coupled with action. Like this is how we tend to generate our most imaginative ideas. We get into a state of flow. So yeah, absolutely. Today is a day to talk about it. I wouldn't say it's so much a class, but more of an invitation to explore. Um, yeah, so I love that we start with intention and attention because that would be facet number one of what is wonder. Yeah. How's the
So,
audio?
Caitlin,
Pretty
it's
good?
good. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a sort
Awesome.
of a question.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to
Love
know
this.
from our family here, what is the force to them? I mean, when we say the may the fourth be with you, we're talking about the way the force, right? Force be with you, and what is that force to everyone?
Yeah.
Yes,
Aside
that
from
would
the
be
Star
interesting
Wars
to know.
reference,
Yeah,
like beyond Star Wars.
yeah. Plus,
Yeah.
what is the
I love that
force
question.
with us? What does that mean?
So what does it mean to you when we share it? Like, may the force be with you. What is that energy or that force that you feel is kind of powering our superpowers and our abilities? Maybe I see Deadpool with a hand up, and Kartik wants to share some things. So maybe Deadpool, do you want to share first, and then we can have Kartik share some insights. We also have a raise your hand button. Yeah.
I see it now. Definitely. I think that, like, for me, force is the thing that makes you get back up every time you fail. It's that thing that, like, is inside you that drives for good, not necessarily for bad. And I think maybe I'm pulling a little bit from Star Wars too. But yeah, that's all I got.
Great.
Hmm.
That's wonderful.
Okay. So, and we had maybe Kartik sharing. I like these little quick shares. I would agree. It's something that's inside you, coming out of you, beyond you. Yeah, Kartik. Mm-mm. Yeah.
Well,
So we're getting very deep. I just have to say I appreciate this because we're in the depths of the cave right now, and I love that we're going into it's like the deep end first. And I would say with the word posture, uh, let's go big. Let's think about this even right now. How are you holding your body? Are you holding your body with a state? Every time I reset myself, I think of the word dignity. So for me, even when I was writing Designing Wonder, this book about wonder, I was thinking about ways to hold my body even at a desk when I was working, with my lungs able to take in air, my shoulders able to feel like they're rolling back. So I'm just inviting you right now to play in the space with the way you're holding your body, in a posture that for you is dignity, nothing forced, just giving some love back to that physical body that I feel so present in VR. For me, VR is visceral. So I know we have a lot of people wanting to interact and share. And in this session, just tying in with your physical body and how you feel. Maybe you're barefoot. Maybe you are hanging out in a space where you've maybe lost touch with how it feels in your feet. But I really think to launch and to feel our superpowers as a force for good, we're kind of connecting our physical and our emotional and our certainly our intellectual prowess. So today it's a time to talk about all of that and all the facets of wonder. Let's take a couple of more inputs
Caitlin,
from the audience. Thanks, Donna. Yes.
Caitlin, do
Hmm.
you want me to do you want me to handle that?
That would be fantastic because I'm
Okay, no problem. Okay, so
yes.
everyone, just just so we can all just so that we can all hear clearly, I'm just going to mute everyone in the room. So just please don't be offended. It's just we're just as we're having this conversation, it will be easier if we are just muted in here. So Chris, I'm going to amplify your voice. Give me a second. I'm getting to the button. There we go. Chris Watts, you're up first.
Yeah. Well, I hope you can hear me, guys.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. Awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think when I'm thinking about wonder, and especially that you combined it here with this Star Wars topic, like "May the Force be with you." The force of imagination and inspiring people. I
Mhm.
think this is
Oh
one of the
yes.
biggest, and especially Star Wars, starting as a quite goofy space movie, like in Little Adventure, gave so many millions of people for such a long time inspiration that they start to dream and using the power of technology to visualize stuff that might be there in the future. I think that's a
Yes.
real superpower.
Oh, how awesome, right?
Oh,
And then your
fantastic.
vision
Yeah.
can be a bridge. Oh, I love that, Chris.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you
Oh,
for
thank you.
sharing that.
Sure.
Should we hear from a
Mhm.
couple more people?
Sure, Eswar, I'm going to amplify your voice. You can unmute yourself now, please, and we can hear you. Eswar?
It's a little
Oh,
bit hard. I had audio issues today too, so don't worry. It's Eswar, if you're out there, feel free. You could message me and I could receive your question by text or your input. Um, yeah, so we could
okay.
take somebody else.
Yeah,
Hmm.
okay. So, Sonia, you're here. I'm going to amplify your voice. Go ahead, Sonia.
Hi, yes, Donna. Hi.
Hi.
Mhm.
So,
Sonia.
hi guys. So, you guys can hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, okay, I think for me, the phrase means that mm, every time I hear that, I always remember everybody is kind of like always going through something. They're going through like their own challenges, their own issue, problems, whatever it is. And like the phrase kind of says that, you're strong, you're okay, and then you're always gonna find like a way to like to make it better. And I think um like what Chris was saying, that it started from like some movies, but I think it kind of like rubbed into everyone till today, that whenever we hear "May the Fourth be with you," it just kind of
Hmm.
feels like, you know what, I'm strong, I'm gonna be okay, and I'm gonna find a way out, whatever problem it is today or tomorrow. So that is like what I always feel like. That's kind of like always what comes to my mind whenever I hear this phrase.
So nice. It sounds so positive and,
Mhm.
optimistic and hopeful. That's wonderful.
Mhm. Mhm.
Wow, I love it because there is a lot of hope, and certainly the word joy comes to mind, like joy in the moment and also elevating. So may the force be with you. I think what's interesting is that it's an intention. So for me, the phrase, there's a person wishing it, right? You're saying, may the force be with you. And it's that may, that concept of not just one person feeling forceful, but a shared intention and a shared wish. Uh, so I'm thinking, Tom, should we pause here and talk about the facets of wonder and some of the investigation of designing wonder and superpowers and then break into more audience
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
input?
Let's do
I
that.
think that would be
That's
awesome.
exciting. Yes.
Yeah. So Tom and I got together last summer and we were talking about this the five facets and beyond of wonder and some of our wonder conversations. And yeah, and my book Designing Wonder, exploring the history of wonder and awe and applications in virtual reality. So for me this is so exciting that we're at a time and place where some of the studies in neuroscience are pointing to what we've known to be true for a while, that the brain and imagination, it just rides waves of wonder and awe, and those powers are really what separates us from robots. I think, it's like we can automate a lot of processes, but we can't necessarily replicate human ingenuity and what it means to apply our spirit and our intention into the causes that we care about. So yeah, so Tom, origin story of facets of wonder. Um, Bridging from last summer to now, where would you want to start kind of describing and talking about wonder and facets of wonder and designing wonder?
Well, when we had this was sort of a wonderful journey in itself. Talking about a hero's journey. When Caitlin and I began discussing this whole notion of what is wonder and how is wonder, um, how is it developed, how is it appreciated, and one of the things that I mentioned to her, and I mentioned she asked me to write the forward to the book, was my own personal experiences of wonder. And as adults, it is
Mm,
so important for us to become a child again. Because if you notice, a child, sort of experiences wonder every day. I mean, even from dropping a spoon to the ground, seeing how children really enjoy doing gravity experiments, don't they? I mean, my daughters used to take their beans on their plate and then to drop them one at a time on the floor, just to see what would happen. Of course, they'd see their mother and me pick them up and put them back on the plate again. But
yeah.
this whole idea of becoming
Mhm.
a child again and being able to say, wow, that is so cool. And because when you do that, it takes you completely out of your model. Wonder is when you get outside of yourself and say, I've never experienced anything like this before. This is so new and so different. And so we started talking about this, and in the forward to the book, I said, well, and then Caitlin stimulated me on this. She said, well, when was a time, let's say, recently, as an adult, you actually experienced wonder? And
Mhm.
I thought about this and I said, I have to tell you that, uh, I'd been working on this whole virtual reality stuff for a long time, starting in 1966. And that there was an event that happened in the early 80s when we put all of these pieces together. We were trying to build a super cockpit to wear. And the whole idea of being able to put on a magic helmet, magic flight suit, magic gloves, plug yourself into this system, and now you're in this three-dimensional circumambience of a virtual world that would actually get bandwidth to and from the brain. And this was all, sort of an engineering kind of thing we're trying to do. And I didn't even think about it. I said, it's going to be pretty cool, but I had no idea how cool it was going to be. So after we spent
Yeah.
several millions of dollars putting all the computers together, putting all of the display devices together, all the display electronics, all these kinds of things it took to do it, finally put helmet on my head and switched it on for the first time. And this amazing panorama unfolds to my vision. And I look around and it was like somebody pulled me out of myself, put me in another place. And all I could say was, wow. And here I was, an engineer. I built this, but then with my colleagues, all I could say is just took my breath away. Wow. And then I began to think, what have we done? What have we created here?
Mm.
What will this mean for the future? I had no idea we'd be doing this today. But that is an experience of wonder. And everybody has these experiences that take them outside of themselves. So it was trying to define what is wonder. That was one of the first things we were trying to do. What is it? And what it comes down to is just something that makes you say, wow, and where you become a kid again. And doesn't it happen to you? Every time I put a headset on, I become a kid again. It's just
Well,
like
yeah.
I can play. I've never been able to play before.
I think it's why our mouths drop open into the figure of an O because our bodies are so open and
Hmm.
we become curious. We become, and I do think, yes, it's a childlike state, but it's also a deep knowing. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so some of the facets that I've been investigating and calling facets of wonder, they incorporate surfing wonder and the ability to be in
Hmm.
creative flow and the overview effect where you have studied and you know all of your principles and all of the engineering and then that drops away into a feeling that's beyond yourself. And I think that this idea of a childlike state, it's a notion of wonder that I think is beautiful, and we can tap into that as adults and really feel a deeper sense of presence and knowing and trust. So it's not easy to explain to someone maybe who hasn't been in VR how it feels to be in this surroundscape. As people who are designers and world builders and storytellers, I think there's such an opportunity to tap into those powers and use them in what we're creating. And I heard Charlie Fink speak at the opening of Univirtual, and he was mentioning the power of your avatar and the power of creative opportunity. And I think this is really key for the future, like how we think about our own presence and our own state of creative. Gosh, it's back to awe and wonder. It's like how do we channel that and really enjoy it, right? So for me, sometimes I step back and just think, this moment right now, we can't replicate it. We're here in VR together. This is our time, and remind myself to enjoy that time and be present here with you and just look into that curiosity of what's going to emerge in the moment that is beyond prescription, something that's surprise, something that's delight. So a lot of the whether it's a writing, whether it's a research study, a lot of what I'm working on lately has to do with those elements of delight and joy and wonder, because that's where the magic happens. So yeah, so when Tom and I got together, we talked a lot about, um, I was bringing in this I guess it's kind of a schema for 5 facets of wonder, because some of this is, I wonder how that works, or oh, I'm looking around at the sky and I'm wondering about the galaxy. And other facets of wonder could be, say, a surfing wonder, like I'm riding waves of wonder of my own thoughts and trying to really tap into some of the states. It could be a hypnagogic state, like wondering and when you wake up from a deep sleep, if you've ever had amazing ideas in those moments, it's probably because there's no critic. There's no voice telling you, "Oh no, is this good enough?" or something like that. That blank page sort of intimidation. Sometimes when we tap into wonder, it's like we are just pure creative spirits. And yeah, there's all kinds of science studies showing what's happening in the brain right now when you're in those amazing flow states. So yeah, so I think that part of the hero's journey was asking people about their stories, their journey, and then looking at how in VR we can play both heroes and mentors to others, teaching them about ways to tap into their wonder and really creatively build powerful projects, tools, creations, experiences together. So that leads to the conversations and the dialogue. Um,
Mhm.
Tom, was there any facet of wonder that was your favorite coming from designing wonder? I know you have a lot of favorites.
Well, I do have a lot of favorites, and I mean, there's just something that just occurred to me
Yeah.
that one of the things we all have we used this sort of this camera metaphor here a little while ago, and about the aperture and the lens of the focus of the lens and so forth. But we also all of us have filters. We're different. We have different shapes and sizes. We have different interests. We have different ethnicities. And all of these things go together to build filters that we put on our cameras. It's the way we see the world. And one of the
Mm,
things and these are models that we have, and those models are active. As a matter of fact, often we work from our models and not what's before us. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we talked about in the book was that part of what we perceive comes from what's out there, but the other part always comes out of our own head. So we build these models, and that's part of the experience we have with what we perceive now. What happens with wonder is now we have an event that we say, oh, wow. What that does is take us completely outside of our model, completely outside of our experience. And we say, wow, that is so cool. What that does in turn is, if we're open to it, expands our model. So, in a way, experiencing wonders pulls us out and makes our sphere of experience larger so that we can comprehend more and become more open. Now, one of the things also we need to remember is that our hold mind is more than what we think, our consciousness. We have what we call a subconscious. Now, we don't know what's going on for sure there. I mean, there's a lot of speculation, but there is a lot of us that's in that subconscious that's there processing all of this thing. And my
mm,
hypothesis is that when we experience wonder, we have a direct conduit through our consciousness into our subconscious. That becomes part of who we are. And I think that so one of the facets of wonder is not only using that to expand our model, but trying really hard to be in places where we can
mhm.
experience wonder, like doing what we're doing today. I think all of us came here with anticipation that our models would be expanded, probably,
This
or
event
at
is
least we'd
60
have some
minutes.
fun.
Yep. So I'm thinking as Tom's sharing about that facet number two
Okay, I answered your
that
question in Discord as well.
oh cool. Um, I think that there are questions being asked at the same time to Donna on the side. So just know if you're hearing that, it's totally normal in this world. We have many opportunities to interact and collaborate.
Mhm,
And for me, facet number two of wonder is the wonder beyond ourselves. So,
mhm,
if you're open enough, and some of these exercises in the book are about, let's say, placing your intention, like at the beginning, using your intention and attention as a flashlight and really getting curious about something, and also narrowing your focus in on that element and just dropping into appreciation. Looking around, how would we explain this world if we didn't come from planet Earth? Like seeing from the eyes of something else. What would be used to describe it, or how might we get curious about the purpose of what's around us? I love biomimicry and some of the biological truths that nature can share with us. And sometimes when we're designing technology, we're looking at biology as inspiration. So some of this wonder is about really investigating with an open mind. And then the facet two, which I think, Tom, what you were saying relates to it, is wondering beyond ourselves. Like maybe I'm not fixed to my one perspective, I can get really curious in VR about other perspectives, other human stories, jumping into each other's eyes and really seeing beyond ourselves. And when you have that plasticity of mindset and you're really open, amazing things can happen. So this is a combination of what I see as mindfulness and some background of that type of curious spirit. I'm always looking to be surprised and delighted, more than I'm looking to say validate something, because maybe I was kind of unaware, or maybe I had a blind spot. So I think we're all learners on the journey, and it's really nice
Mhm.
to think of us as childlike in our openness and our curiosity and our approaches to each other, especially in this day and time when the
Mhm.
need to be even more intersectional. I love the Walt Whitman quote, "I contain multitudes." So
Mhm.
let's contain some
Yeah.
multitudes of wonder. Um, yeah.
I think another one of the facets of wonder is really when we're able to take all of these things that we are open to and bring them in. Then we
Hmm.
start making connections. We start connecting the dots. And then that's when we start talking about epiphanies, where pieces finally come together, these disparate things, and we're able to make the links. And from that expands our understanding of a greater whole. And and especially we see that in when we are able to uh, open our minds and hearts to nature. We see what an
Yeah.
amazing system this is, this so-called ecosystem, where we see the bees and we see the plants and we see the forests and the trees, all of this, and earthworms and the birds, all together in this system playing a part and a role where they help each other. And
Yep.
even when trees pass away, in the traditional sense of returning to the earth, they become nurse logs to help other things grow. And it's all of this cycle of nature. And, when you think about cycles, there is no end. There is no end. And so there is only transformation and growing and things like that. So, Caitlin, you're way up there.
Oh, I was taking a picture from on high
Oh, okay.
because this notion that you're describing to me has to do with the gestalt. That the
Mhm.
sum of the parts,
Being,
there's a certain
yes.
greater wholeness in, and of
Hmm.
course there's more descriptions in this designing wonder, but
Yeah.
that idea of recognizing something as familiar and even more
Mhm.
um, powerful as a whole than it would be if it were separated, and that's what I feel in this room today too. So
There's one
should we
other
take
thing about
any?
that.
Hmm.
Oh, so
Yeah.
just let me just one
Yeah.
other thing, and then we like to hear from our friends here.
Absolutely.
One of the things we also need to understand is we have more vision than we think. We're more, and we are able to comprehend more than we think. We think about seeing and hearing and touching and tasting and all that, but just look at vision. We have a visual field subtends up to 240 degrees. Yet we're in our headsets that have maybe 100 to 110 degrees. So we aren't seeing the whole here, but when we go into the real world, there are more things we're taking into ourselves than we realize that we can actually bring into consciousness. And in the
Hmm.
recent studies that I've been doing sponsored by the National Science Foundation, we've been examining this whole thing of what happens in the peripheral retina, in the far peripheral retina, beyond what we see instantaneously. Um,
Mm,
Everybody can hear me okay? You hear me okay, Caitlin?
I can. I'm looking around. Yeah,
Oh,
I see lots of parts far away.
okay.
So this is great. With our
So
Yeah, no, I
let me
love
finish
this.
that
And
thought.
mhm. Yep.
And the thought is now that a lot of what we're probably seeing, but we don't realize we see, is going into our subconscious, and that's why it's important. The idea of place is so important. Of being in these places which give us experiences that lift us, like going outdoors and being in a forest, rather than necessarily staring at screens all day. That's a
Yeah.
part of us that needs to be served. So part of the experience of wonder is not only what we bring into consciousness, but what we bring into subconsciousness.
Yeah. And sometimes we have to carve out time for that garden space.
Yes,
So I was going
yes.
to invite, before we get to the audience, questions right now. Um, just a moment. Sometimes we wait till the end of an event, but I'm going to call this an imprint moment. If you could just be aware of your environment and include the people. I've been taking some pictures during this event and just reminding myself to enjoy it. Um, if you could invite yourself just for 30 seconds to dwell in this moment right now and appreciate it, coming from the word appreciation, to see, just take in some things that might be extraordinary and try to imprint that. Like, just recall how it feels. Maybe look around, take a visual snapshot, take a mental emotional snapshot. What do you want to take away and remember and recall? For me, I'll have these little moments throughout the day where I slow down, pause, notice, appreciate. Yeah. And then it's almost a refresh for your senses. That's a little wonder moment. Doesn't take a lot of time, but it does take intention. Okay. So magic of the cave. Um, let's move to just taking some questions that could have to do with, we
Okay.
haven't really talked about the hero's journey a lot yet, but there's a hero's journey involved in designing wonder. There's a hero aspect of today, but anything you want to ask us about, facets of wonder, designing wonder, hero's journey, happy to answer. And you have a raise hand button that's right on your lower right side. So maybe there's some new voices in the room who haven't shared yet, but might have some questions to add. Let me see. Or any input that you have about experiences with wonder. That could be good too. And I also want to point out, we have a guest here, special guest, Andy Fidel, and Andy is in here, and I do see we also haven't talked about the hero's journey and social aspect, but there's a reason that we're in the cave together and we're not soloists. And I guess that would be the point for me to mention the hero's journey. Um, there's a hero's journey model that has to do with designing wonder, that's all about mentoring and this notion of going into the unknown. So if you think about your first experience in VR, maybe you had someone near you or someone who was a hero of yours that inspired you and introduced you to virtual reality, and not only helped you acclimate, but inspired you to do the creative work that you're doing. Maybe this hero had nothing to do with the technology and was more someone who inspired the ideas that are part of what brought you to this place in time right now. So, I mentioned Andy Fidel because Andy has amazing social networks that uplift other people, and people, we humans are meant to connect. We thrive in connection with each other. So, really, part of this May the Force Be With You and Hero's Journey is celebrating our friends and networks. So, people like Andy, right over there, Andy, if you wish to say anything, you are more than welcome, because it's so great to have you here. And just thinking about many different ways to play the hero, play the mentor for others, and use wonder as a superpower. So I will just take a moment and see if Andy wants to share a few words. We have some limited accessibility with where Andy is in the world right now. But Andy says thank you. So a huge thank you to the audience from Andy. And if you're part of the Get Social networks, you know what I mean. I mean, this is a strength that's greater than the sum of its parts. Um, okay, so we do have one. We have a question out there, so I'm going to turn it over to Donna.
Chris, do you want to raise your hand again? Yep, you've got the amplify. Go ahead.
Super.
Okay, right. Yeah, I just had to unmute me myself. Yeah, I was wondering about this point of the hero's journey, basically. When I think about the classics, like Ulysses, for example, you know, in
Mm.
all these mythologies, we have always this same schema. Like there's this huge a thing that for example, the hero has to go through. There's always the big effort before everything will be released and the wonder can take place. Is it like that the wonder is always just a reward, or are there wonders that are for free?
Mhm.
I could answer this. I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot.
Mhm.
um, Chris, let me make sure I'm hearing your question right. Are you asking that a question about is the journey part of the joy of wonder, or is it the end of
Yeah,
conquest? Okay, great.
yeah. Is it a must? Is that the effort I have to put in to get
Yeah,
the wonder as a
Mhm.
reward somehow?
yep.
Mhm.
This is a lovely question, and it speaks to
Mhm.
my heart. And on a side note, I did go out just briefly for a run the other day, and I came home and my dog was so excited to see me again. It was like I had been gone for a long time, so I started calling her Penelope, you know, and I would be Ulysses. I was like, I'm back.
Yeah.
I've arrived again. Um, you know, I think it has to be for me. The word passion comes to mind. We're on these journeys for a reason, and the hero's journey, I personally feel that the rigor of putting yourself into spaces that are, let's say, whether it's physical rigor or moving past a limiting belief and finding some type of freedom in that catharsis, that moving into the unknown and feeling as if you are, oh gosh, there's a great quote I love that says, "Your your calling is where your passion meets the world's deep need." So how do we merge our
Mm.
passion with the world's need? And that's going to be a journey that's hard. But the journey, that rigor, to me, is not the same as grit, where we brace ourselves and we feel, you know, oh, it's so hard. Oh, I'm complaining the whole time. This has to be, in my mind, to thrive, a journey of wonder and joy where there's also rigor. And the rigor is because we care so much that we're willing to put ourselves in places of, let's say, taking risks. How many people out there have taken risks to pursue their joy and pursue their wonder and go into those spaces of unknown? Yeah, I think the hero, yes. Oh, I see. I love this. Elizabeth is dancing back and forth. Yeah, how do we have both the gravity and the levity to pursue that and still be open and childlike on the journey? Um, yeah, I think that this is the key, right? How do we have a resilience that gives us a sense of bounce as we're doing this? We take our work very seriously, and yet we are investigators and curious. I do think that probably Ulysses, who knows what he would have said, but along the way, you know, the feeling that we have of purpose is probably what keeps us going. And to me, that purpose is closely tied to wonder and joy. Tom, what do you think? It's a big
Absolutely. I
question.
think that it is a big question, and the whole
Yeah.
idea is the process versus the destination. And
Uh-huh.
um, And we both I think can be part of the bigger picture of wonder. Certainly, we only live in the now, right? We can
Mm.
only really be present in the now. I mean, what goes before and what comes after, we're not living there. We're living right now. I think a lot of people try to live in the past or worry about the past or worry about the future, when in fact, pretty much right now is okay, um, or not. But to me,
Sounds
it's
like
got to be
mindfulness
both.
to me. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's back to
Mhm.
mindfulness, being present and being present in a process, and that the journey itself can bring you joy. Um, and and joy isn't not necessarily an event, or wonder
Mhm.
is not necessarily an event. It is potentially a process, and that's really another state of wonder that we are looking at. And so that's a great question, and Chris, and I think that
Yeah.
we certainly want the joy in the goal. Think about all of the Olympic athletes who train pretty much all their lives for this one event, and then they
Mhm.
succeed and they're successful, and then they sort of lost, what to next. Uh, and when in fact, there's a lot more that can be done next, and there is a sense of loss. I mean, I don't know how, this probably isn't a
Yeah.
very good illustration, but remember when I was working on my dissertation, this was 601 pages of mathematics and all kinds of stuff, and it took me a long time to write it. And every day, I had this adrenaline, pumping and things like that to do this, and it was a creative act. It was a voyage, and then I finished, and I got my sheepskin. And then I looked around. I said, "Well, what do I do now?
Mhm.
What's and it may take a little while to find out what's next, but still, there is joy in the journey and joy in the end of the journey. But there's then the next journey, and
Yeah.
you're in a much better position to take the next journey after you've had the joy and the conclusion of the previous journey. So it's
Absolutely.
all ever flowing. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and the hero's journey is a spiral cycle, right? And
it is.
you come
Mhm.
you come back from that apotheosis, like that being in the belly of the whale, and you or after when you have that resurgence, and you apply in a different way to who you are, where you are. We're even maybe feeling like we're in a storm right now, and that coming out of the hero's journey to apply um, back to life in a different way. This is why, again, back to in the book with Hero's Journey, I have a model that I call scuba, that's about S for setting your intention, C for crossing a threshold into an unknown space, U for being under and in the element. Right now we are under, we're underwater and in that cave together. And then B is going to be crossing back into what you call quote unquote real world, but it really, I mean, it's real now, but back from the hero's journey element into the ordinary universe, applying in a new way. It's like we come out and we're always doing that cycle, applying what we know, applying what we're curious about. So, how can that hero's journey couple with wonder, giving us maybe a greater consciousness about what's important in the journey?
Mhm.
I love this conversation. We could even get into time being nonlinear, but I won't go there right now. I think David is out there with a question, um, and I'm not sure where David is. Yes,
David, you can unmute yourself.
there you are. Hi.
Sorry, guys. It's
Yeah.
I pressed the wrong button. Sorry, so I didn't have a question. I'm just enjoying listening to you. I wasn't too sure if
Oh.
this was raised hand or not raised hand, so sorry about that.
No, I love that you're playing. You're not only playing, but you're exploring the area on a toadstool, and this is as it should be down here. All these great
Mhm.
elements. So I think one thing I did want to add is that we have extra time too for people who might want to go into outer space, since it is Star Wars. Stick around at the end of the hour, and we'll have kind of an after party in in an outer space world if you would like to join me, because I'm always thinking I wanted to be an astronaut when I was little. So I'm always thinking about ways to go into space. See hand, and if you have a, you go down to your right hand, there's a raise hand button. So if you can see that, then we can give you um, a microphone. Yeah, and if anyone wants to keep in touch beyond this, well, of course you do, I do. Please reach out to Tom and I. We're at Virtual World Society. I am also at mindwise_CK on Twitter and all kinds of places. And you can look at CaitlinKrause.com if you want to check out Designing Wonder, the book, and learn more about the wonder facets and all kinds of details there. Because I continue to add more to the research, and wonder and awe is something that really drives me on a daily basis. So it's the emotion that is most powerful in the human body too. So I think I've heard it's most powerful and a way to combat anger. Like anger is one of those emotions that also fires, but wonder, awe, joy, these are definitely more powerful and positive in my world. So yeah. Um, Tom, what are you thinking right now? Do you think we should take a few more audience questions? I see some host tools here. Time for one final hand raise. Yes. Yes, Donna, definitely. I think that would be super.
Okay, you know who you are. Unmute yourself and you'll be able to ask your question.
Okay, I run an organization. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I run an organization called Wow Bali, and so we are a sustainability and regenerative development NGO here in Indonesia. And
Nice.
so
Nice.
for the last 15 years, with a name like Wow, I'm always in search of this, what this wowness or this wow space. and and most definitely wow is very universal. It doesn't matter what culture you come from, they have a word for wow, that allness. But what I've been investigating in the last 4 years is I've been working with some of the high priests here in Bali, and why they even celebrate death. And but the main focus is around this cosmology uh, of a calendar, which is a behavior environment calendar, which naturally harmonize you with nature, which is energy, with the elementals, with this energy. So I wanted to ask you two, um, does any of your uh, finding uh, in this force uh, deals with energetics, and then the migration of moving from the the literal and logical into a more neural uh, um, connection of energy, and can that process help with this wowness or allness or wonder? I get too long-winded.
I can address that if you'd like,
No,
Caitlin, and
not at
let's
all.
make a statement.
I think that
Well, I
if
think
Tom has something to add, I have something to add afterwards. Yeah. Yeah.
thanks for that. The wowness, um, getting an echo, I believe.
I took
Okay.
care of it.
Okay. Very good. So, again, there's a lot of speculation about this, but let's face it, we are all these little balls of energy anyway. Right. We're all these vibrating, whatever it is, the particles out here. And we're clusters of energy. And, physicists can't really explain it all yet, nor biologists, but we do know that there's that kind of thing. And, we also have, as a balls of energy, we have this consciousness that can direct that energy. And I think that's part of what the force is. When you say when the force will be with you, what you're saying is I really put my energy. I try to communicate my energy and connect my energy from me to you. And so I believe that when there is intention, when we're paying attention, and when there is intention to have things happen, they happen. The universe, in a way, is out there just waiting for us humans, us little balls of energy, to say, "What do you want us to do?" And
Mm.
so that's why we have to be so responsible for what we think and where we send our attention, because whatever we do with that energy does affect other people. So I think that there is this energy thing, and it's interpreted in many different ways, of course, depending upon cultural things and so forth. Um, so
I
I'm
love that.
I'm just in awe about how much power we have, and I'm hoping that in the end, humankind will understand that we have this power, and that we have a responsibility, a stewardship, to take the ball of energy that we are, and link that, connect it. I mean, we've always talked about what is connection, and really what is love. And love is really connecting, connecting our energy, our intent, our heart, our good feelings to another entity, another individual, and to causes, and putting our hopes behind that. And so all these terms that we call joy and hope and faith and
Yep.
may the force be with you, is all, it's all connected in this one thing of how we as an entity or a corpuscle or node of this energy, this ball of energy that has consciousness, have the opportunity to direct and steer that anywhere
S-
we want and desire. We have the agency to do that. And so that is so important of where we do that and the intent for which we trying to communicate in that process. Well, that's
I think
throwing some
it's
things out there, Caitlin.
Oh, yeah. I think it's fascinating that we started just naturally with an intention and attention exercise. And philosophically, we can talk about this, but that energy is felt
Hmm.
in our presence, in our action, and definitely in the way the way that we frame our experience, like looking around and the way that we choose to approach. So even right now, I'm feeling that joy, and I think there is a sense of love. So there's a translation of that into what's underneath our actions, and that's the way I was going to frame that answer. And there are more studies now being applied in these worlds. So whether it's the overview effect and playing around with experiences, there are all kinds of exercises to share. So please feel free to use me as a resource. As I said, I have more resources and ways to share. If you want to connect with me online, you can look at this event, and there are links to both Tom and me and pages, and like I said, CaitlinKrause.com is where there's a lot of awe and wonder research. I'm just looking around the room, and it's like the room is right here, this amazing space where that connection has happened in many different ways. And I look around and I see, gosh, people from Book Flow, a book club, and people from Made for Joy, this amazing movement in the world that's spreading joy and love and compassion and wonder. And I'm just so grateful and honored to be a part of this, looking at experiences where we can create beyond ourselves. So, right now, what I'm going to do is take a quick picture of the room, this space with all of the beautiful color and light behind us. So, if you want to, feel free to put up an emoji for how you're feeling and what type of wonder you might be carrying in this moment. So, I'm going to take a picture. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. And maybe one more. And I'll be taking lots of selfies, maybe a selfie after this. This is a univirtual event, and it's one of the first of the month, celebrating this month-long program co-hosted by Educators in VR and also Virtual World Society. And I'm sure that uh, Donna, as our co host for the event today, might have some extra words to share. I'm just really grateful that we could bring some of the Designing Wonder background stories and concepts into a room where we are in May the 4th Be With You superpower theme. And please feel free to stay, ask more questions in a low key way, and eventually I will port us into the stars if people would like to travel the galaxy with me. So thank you so much. And Donna, is there anything to add for these 30 days of events? This is such an incredible. I won't even call it a conference. It's an experience.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
hi to Blaine out there. By the way, I hear you. I see you. Yay, there you are. Awesome. Wow, it's a big
Yes.
moment.
Mhm. Universal
Yeah.
experience aptly named, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah.
Let's give up a set of emojis for Caitlin and Tom today. It's such a pleasure to
Thank
have
you.
them
Thank you.
with
Thank
us.
you.
I can't, the colors are weird in here. I can't tell if I'm amplified. Yeah, I am.
Yeah, you are.
So thanks.
Color. It's
So
a
Mhm.
rainbow
I
in here.
I know, really. Eh? So thank you so much for coming. It's hard to believe that it's like May 4th. So this
Yeah.
carries on until May 30th. If you're wondering, we're hosting events on 18 different platforms throughout from now till the 30th. We're slowly adding events to the calendar, so we're making our way through mid-May right now. But you're going to see events in Engage and in Mozilla Hubs. You can maybe do some Gorilla Tag or join a multi-brush jam. There's all sorts of different experiences, conversations. Julie Smithson with Metaverse is hosting a panel of women this afternoon. That's just going to be an awesome conversation. So there's events in AltSpace. So you can follow the events in AltSpace, but you can also go to Educators of VR, their website, just educatorsofvr.com, and you can find the calendar there. And we'll have and you could go to Virtual World Society has a Discord server, and Educators of VR has a Discord server. So there will be no end of places where you can get information. And and so through the month, keep checking back for events that we're adding. Thank you so much for coming. We want to thank sponsors for the event. Tom and Caitlin are with Virtual World Society. Daniel and Laurel are the founders of Educators in VR, and they're also in the house today. So let's give up emojis for the creators of
Mhm.
this amazing experience for us, okay? And thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you in the metaverse very soon.